Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I want to do a comparison between the AR-15 and the AK-47. Okay. Now the AR-15 traditionally shoots the 5.56 caliber. The AK-47, shoots the 7.62 by 3.9. Okay. Now I don't want to get hung up on calibers, okay, because basically you got your AK-47, but then you also got your AK-74, okay, and that shoots a caliber, similar to, the AR-15, okay. And likewise, it's very popular to take the, to switch the upper on an AR-15 to one that shoots a 300 blackout, and now all of a sudden you're shooting a caliber that's similar to a traditional AK-47. Okay, so that's why I don't want to get hung up on calibers, since both rifles do cross over. Okay, so let's put that aside. Okay, the next issue that I want to talk about is weight. Okay, the AR-15 typically is a little bit lighter. Okay, and the AK-47 typically is a little bit heavier, but that's not a drastic difference. Okay, this AR weighs 6.5 pounds. Okay, this one weighs just a little bit below 7 pounds. Okay, so because it's got that free floating barrel, it's just a tad bit heavier than the one that has the plastic sleeve on it. Okay, all right. Now this AK over here, it weighs just a little bit over 7 pounds. Okay, so there's not that much of a weight difference between this AR-15 and this AK-47. Okay, this AK-47 over here, on the other hand, this thing weighs almost 9 pounds. Okay, so that's at the heavier end. Okay, but there is a sweet spot in the middle where the AR-15 and the AK-47 will have a weight that's very similar. Okay, so I'm gonna scratch that off as non-significant. Okay, next let's talk about durability. Okay, AK-47s are well known for their durability. Okay, now because there's a lot of space between the parts. Okay, and basically as I look in there, I can see the hammer. I can see there's a lot of room in there for things to move around. So if you get sand and dirt and stuff in there, I mean, things are going to move around a lot more. And basically the sand's going to move out of the way. So basically you can get more gunk in there and the gun will work. Okay, so that I think is unquestionable. Due to its design, the AK-47 will allow for a greater buildup of dirt before the rifle stops operating. Okay, the AR-15 on the other hand, because the parts are a little bit tighter. Okay, it's basically it will fail a little bit sooner. Now that said, okay, I will typically clean my AR-15s somewhere around 700 rounds. Okay, and I think I might have even gone up to 1,000 rounds. And I really don't count rounds. I basically, because I buy ammunition by the case, so I'm buying 1,000 rounds at a time. So I kind of know how many cases I go through, so that kind of gives me an idea of how many rounds I go through before I have to clean it. And with the AR-15, the way I know that it's time to clean the gun is basically I put the magazine in and I charge it. If I feel a little bit of if I start feeling some resistance, it's time to clean the gun. Okay, so that's the clue that I will typically get that it's time to clean the AR-15. Okay, and like I said, I've shot close to 1,000 rounds, before I've bothered to clean it. Okay, so it's not like you gotta clean it every time you shoot. That's not the case at all. I'm a firearms instructor. I am in the business of training people. I'm not in the business of cleaning guns. Okay, so I really am not interested in cleaning guns unless I have to clean guns. Okay, so I'm basically not going to clean the guns until it becomes necessary to do it. AK-47. I mean, I think the only time I really clean this gun is when I want to show somebody how to clean the gun, how to take it apart. Okay, I think the gun could probably, and I can't say this for a fact, but unless you're actually running it through mud and dirt, if you're just doing range shooting, you could probably, the gun probably won't need cleaning during your whole lifetime. Okay, I'm not saying that you shouldn't clean the gun every once in a while, but the gun will probably never need cleaning. And again, the way you will know when it's time to clean the gun is when you charge the bolt and you feel some resistance there. It's probably time to clean the gun if you start feeling that resistance. Okay, that's my thoughts on the cleaning. That said, there isn't that big of a significant difference, for most people. Okay, if you took me and you put me on some unknown planet and told me I was going to have to fight off a bunch of predators and there was no hope of ever getting resupplied or rescued, and at that point, I would probably pick the AK-47, because the AK-47, I just know that it's not going to need to be cleaned. Okay, and it's going to have that little extra power to it. Typically, if it's shooting the traditional rounds. So if you put me on an unknown planet where I know I'm not going to be resupplied, I know I'm not going to have access to gun parts, I'll probably take the AK-47. If I'm going to be fighting, anywhere in North America, where I know that AR-15 gun parts are plentiful, okay, you can find numerous AR-15s that you can cannibalize and get the parts you need and fix the guns, and you can find, cleaning kits and cleaning solutions, So if you're anywhere in North America, or even in Europe where they also have AR-15s, or the cleaning is not so much of an issue. The replacement of parts is not so much of an issue. Okay, so I'm going to scratch that off. Okay, and just call it insignificant. Now, I will say that I do have a bias. Okay, that I came into this with a bias. My bias was that I started off as an AK guy. Okay, because a lot of guys, they start off, let's say, in the military. They first get trained on AR-15s. That's the gun that when they come out, they're comfortable with. And basically they just continue using them. Okay, that wasn't my path. My path was, as a basically as a private. I went from private citizen to instructor. Before I became an instructor, obviously, I used to do what most of you guys do, was basically just shoot stuff. Set up targets and shoot them, blow the shit out of them. And the AK was great for that kind of stuff. So I started off as an AK guy because it was great for blowing stuff up. Okay. As I started getting more and more into tactical shooting, okay, what happened was that most of the guys that I was training with, that were basically veterans, okay, who have fought in Afghanistan, Iraq, basically that's where most of our training, all our tactical knowledge, right, comes from those guys, all those veterans that are coming back from the war on terrorism. That's where we're getting all our information from. Okay, so those guys came back, and they have, over the last 20 years, we've been fighting this war on terrorism. They developed all these techniques, and basically, it was at that point that my bias switched over to the AR-15, because that's what they were using. The techniques that they were teaching me and that we were practicing worked better with the AR-15. Now, if I was living in Russia or somewhere in Eastern Europe, and I was training with Russian veterans, they've probably developed a different fighting style that basically centers around the AK-47 or the AK-74. So I probably would have favored that, because the style that rather the techniques that they're teaching would probably work better with that gun. And I don't know, I've seen a couple of videos on by Russian instructors using AK-47s, but I really haven't done any one-on-one or hands-on training with them. So that's why my training and my experience comes down from the AR-15 side. So I do have a little bit of training bias. I have a training bias towards the AR-15. Okay, so that's I'll put that out there. Now, that aside, okay, from a training perspective, my biggest issue, or not my issue, the thing that causes me to favor the AR-15 the most, Putting aside the calibers, okay, because like we said earlier, the calibers are kind of interchangeable. Okay, the weight of the guns, that's kind of that can kind of meet in the middle somewhere, and both guns can weigh about the same. The durability issue for the type of shooting that most people will do, even if you're fighting a civil war, both guns will be durable enough. The main issue that I have, when comparing these two guns, what it comes down to me is optics. Okay, the AR-15, okay, basically has an upper receiver, okay, that's basically connected to the barrel, okay, that allows you to mount optics, okay, and the optics are basically connected to the receiver. The AK-47 has an issue with that, okay. The issue with that is that you really don't have any great places to mount optics, okay. On this particular gun, I have the optic put on the dust cover. The problem with that is that the dust cover, okay, even though this is pretty solid, it's got these screws in the back that really lock it down, it's still going to wiggle a little bit, okay? So if you're trying to take any really precise shots at distance, there's going to be some inconsistency because you can't really mount, basically if you mount the optic on the dust cover, as I've done in this gun, yes, it will be good enough, if you're shooting out to 100 yards, but there is there's a theoretical flaw with mounting the optic on the dust cover, okay? The other place where people like to mount the optic is basically they'll on this part over here, the gas tube part, they'll take this off, okay, because this is removable, okay? There's a little thing that lifts up over here, and basically this piece comes out, and they'll change this piece with one that has a Picatinny rail. And the cool thing about that is if you mount your optic over here, now you can actually get a co-witness between these two sides. Well, again, the problem with that is that this moves, okay? No matter what you do, even if you crazy glue it, I mean, as the gun is vibrating, there's gonna be some movement there. I mean, that's kind of inherent. Okay, you can't get away from that. So that's gonna move. That's gonna move. Okay. The only parts on this on the top side of the gun that are solid, okay, is the front sight, okay, and really this part right here, okay, this short piece of real estate from here to here, where the rear sight sits, okay. Ideally, if I were to put in a special order for an AR-15, I would basically say, what, take off this rear sight, put it back here somewhere, put that on the dust cover, because if you're shooting iron sights, if your rear sight is on the dust cover, the little bit of wiggle you might get there is really not going to make that much of a difference. I would put a Picatinny rail right here on the most solid part, and that's where the optic belongs, okay? And then you could put like your flashlights and other stuff on the plastic around here, because all this plastic stuff here, you can change that out. You can put flashlights here, you can put all the other crap that you put on there, but the optic, that has to be on the most solid part of the gun, and that's right there. Now on one of the most common, a very common method of mounting an optic is, basically there's this, basically it's on the receiver, right? You mount this this contraption here, right? And basically, as you can see, it kind of loops over the top, and basically it sits over the dust cover, but it's not connected to the dust cover. It's connected to the receiver. The problem with this design, and it actually took me a little while to actually notice this, is that because this is such a it's rather long. You got a pretty this is a pretty thin piece of metal here, and it has to be, so it doesn't add weight. If you press down on this, okay, I'm doing it right now, I can see some movement. Okay, there's flexibility in this design. There has to be, because it's a thin piece of metal. Okay, it's not a 10-pound solid piece of metal that's going to make the gun twice heavy. It's a pretty thin piece of metal, and if you push down on it, I can visibly see that the thing moves. Okay, so as you're shooting this, that's going to vibrate. That's going to move. Okay, so with the with the AR-15, okay, even on the older styles with the plastic forearm here, you've got this solid rail over here that sits on top of the upper receiver, and that's solid. That's fixed. Okay, and that's where we put our optics. And that is a theoretically better place to put it. Okay. The other nice thing about the AR-15, okay, going back to the original, Vietnam era, the original design of this gun was basically you have a straight line from barrel to your stock back here, okay, and your sights basically sit about 2.5 inches high, okay. So that creates a natural, co-witness, because the way, even if you had the old traditional carry handle back here, you're still 2 inches high, so that creates a great parking spot for your optic, and then you can get that natural co-witness over there, okay. That doesn't exist on your AK-47 because with the AK-47 design, okay, basically, this is the top of the gun here, okay, and basically the sights basically sit right on the top of the gun, okay. They don't sit 2.5 inches higher, even though this optic right now over here is mounted 2.5 inches higher, okay. It sits, almost, a lot lower on the gun, which basically means I cannot get that co-witness. The only way to get that co-witness is if I remove this part and try to mount this onto here. If I change this out to one that has a Picatinny rail, but in this design, I'm not going to get that natural co-witness. Okay, and this is the design. Because remember, this comes with a mounting point on the receiver for the optic. So this is where they want you to put it. Okay, so you're never going to get a co-witness out of that. And as part of the design of the gun, basically the way this gun is designed, the sights are basically flush with your gas tube over here. Okay, and basically the stock kind of dips down. Okay, so basically that's the stock dips down. Because the stock dips down, basically you get that line of sight. That's also one of the things that when you fire this gun, it tends to lift up, because the stock is slightly dipped down, as opposed to the AR-15 design, because it's a straight line from barrel to stock, the recoil is straight back, so it's gonna, you have less felt recoil because it's going straight into your shoulder as opposed to lifting up. But anyway, those are my thoughts. I mean, this issue of AR-15 versus AK-47 has been discussed many times over, but I wanted to add my 2 cents and point out what I think is important. Okay, a lot of the other things I talked about I think are less important. The more important issue to me is number one, the training style has to be compatible with the gun. Okay, so I mentioned that, and secondly, the modern optics that we use are basically more compatible with an AR-15. They were basically designed for the AR-15, because if you think, most of these optics were designed here in America to be put on AR-15s. They weren't designed in Russia to be put on AK-47s. So it makes sense that the optics work better with AR-15s. So those are my thoughts. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.